Welcome to Conversations Live, where we bring you the best in music, books, entertainment, and more. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 16 years of broadcasting, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience and those tuning in online. We're glad you all could join us. You guys know I love a great story, and we all have heard that truth can be sometimes stranger than fiction, where our next guest is here to really prove that point well. We're excited to welcome Jhod Cardinal and Scorgie to our program. They're filmmakers behind a new project called INMATE #1, The Rise of Danny Trejo. We're going to talk to them not only about the telling of this story, but also what it was like for them to take someone that all of us think we know because of his work on camera, and what it's been like for him to really be able to tell the story, and of course the inspiration behind it all as well. If you guys are just now finding out about INMATE #1, we'll let you know at the end of our segment where to be able to go for all the updates. But Jhod, Adam, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Well, the pleasure is definitely all mine. Jhod, I'll start with you. I mean, the buzz for this film has definitely been crazy. I mean, what has it been like for you to be able to see the early response to INMATE #1?
Oh, it's extremely exciting, Cyrus. We've had, a few films in our career and really hustling to get the message out there. And this one is our first partnership with a studio with Universal. And it's made a dramatic difference to see, people like Ozzy Osbourne sharing it, SNL doing a song about Danny Trejo. It all just feels very exciting and nice to be in this space because it's been a lot of hard work getting here.
Yeah. Adam, what about for you? I mean, as Jhod was saying, I mean, it's really, it has to be a good feeling to be able to see everyone kind of jumping on board, and supporting this. What has that been like for you as a filmmaker from it?
Oh, of course. I'm geeking out. Jhod took the answer much more professional. I'm geeking out. Like, people are sending me, they're like, dude, Ozzy Osbourne just shared your trailer. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. I'm taking screen grabs and keeping it. And then, a good friend of ours, one of the writers on the film, actually, he's like, Adam, I'm watching SNL and there's a whole story there's a skit and a song about Danny Trejo. He's like, I've watched SNL for my entire life. I've never seen Danny on there. And 5 days after your trailer releases, there's a song. And then sure enough, Universal sent us like a whole breakdown, and it was great to see where they kept saying, the trailers exceeded our expectations, the comments are like 90% positive. In today's negative world, that's like unheard of, right? So it was, we've been geeking out, and, even still things have slowed down before the next bump of media coming out. And I constantly just Googling to see if something else cool or something's popped up. So it's been very cool to ride this wave.
Yeah. Jhod, as a producer on this too, I mean, it has to be good, especially because we're not living in the most common of times right now, right? So, I mean, so it's great to be able to have something, as Adam was saying, and it's such a great point, something that is positive that we can talk about, and something, that gets people excited outside of what we've kind of been dealing with in 2020. Has that also been a bright spot that really timing is everything?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of docs, and some of them are much darker, and some of them have, very happy endings, I guess you could say. And for this one to be released now is fabulous. And, there's some things you wish you have theatrical presence and stuff like that. And although that world's not existing right now, I think we're thankful for what we have in front of us. And it's been great. And I can't complain about it so far.
Yeah. Adam, one of the things I saw when I was prepping for this segment, one of the lines that people have been mentioning is that this was 71 years in the making. So I want to talk about the responsibility that Jhod and you felt when it came to telling this story. I mean, what is it like for you to, one, know that you're going to be the ones to help bring this story to life, but also knowing that so many people are waiting on being able to get to know Danny better?
That's always the toughest part with any of the docs, but it's a thing that we assure the talent of more than anything, because most of them, once we do the story, it's doing the story correctly that they're most concerned about. It's not the money and stuff like that. They're always like, I want my story told correctly. And the fortunate part we had with Danny is he's so comfortable in his skin that a lot of the times when you're doing a doc, you're hoping everybody shares those moments and really opens themselves up. Well, Danny opens himself up 100%. He'll talk about, being addicted to heroin when he was 13 years old and doing armed robberies when he was 12 and, going to prison and running protection rings and, being involved in stabbings. Like, he was open to everything because he's 52 or 53 years sober. So part of recovery is always being honest and open about everything. So that made things really easy. Danny was so open to share, and he really saw early that director Brett Harvey really wanted to tell his story, because the one thing Danny was, wanted to make sure, he's like, I don't want you guys to glorify my prison stuff. He's like, although I do believe it's helped me to be the character I am today, I don't want youth to think it's cool to go to prison, because it's not. Yeah. He's like, it's not cool. He's like, you think it's cool when I was growing up as a young Latino that, because all my friends were there all the time, but he's like, it isn't cool when you're showering next to, I don't know, there's swearing on here, but he's like, when you're showering next to 30 guys and you're all trying not to look down, he's like, it sucks. You don't want to go to prison. Yeah. So we really want to make sure that we did that right, but, Brett knocked it out of the park. When we did the first rough cut, Danny literally stood up with tears in his eyes, and he's like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Thank you. So we knew we were on the right track then.
Adam, I want to ask you a follow-up to that. Then, Jhod, I'm going to bring you into the same question. One of the things that I noticed, and we're going to let our audience know at the end, of course, how they will be able to stay connected with the update. Beechwood Pictures said something about this film that I knew I wanted to mention in this interview, and I think it says a lot about what you all have been able to do. They said, a truly inspiring tale about destiny and what doing good in life can yield. This is how biopics should be made. I mean, when you hear comments like that, Adam, how does that make you feel about what you all were able to achieve with this?
And I hadn't heard that. That like literally almost brings a tear to my eye. It's hard with any film to do it right, especially when you're covering somebody's real life story. So to hear, we keep seeing reviews like that where people are like, wow, you guys didn't rush his early life. You guys really told this story correctly. And, that to continually hear comments like that is what you aspire for as a filmmaker, is that you hope that you tell a story correctly and you put it, because you still, when you're making entertainment, it still has to be entertaining. So you have to honor the true story, but then still make it compelling and entertaining for people on TV. And to hear comments like that, and as you mentioned earlier, with everything going on in the world right now, Danny's story of he truly believes everything good that has happened to him is a direct result of helping somebody else. Everything. So that was such a key message. So to read that and people see that, in the time when the world's turned upside down right now, that, helping others is a good way for your community on the small level to start small and things improving around you. So that's an awesome kind. I love that that people are saying that about the film. That really makes us feel that we knew we had something special, but it's always good to be reassured.
Right, for sure. And Jhod, what about you? I mean, I know you've been hearing these comments too. When you hear people say that this is how biopics should be made, how does that make you feel about what you all were able to do with this?
Well, specifically with Danny's story and how huge his Hollywood life has been, there was an easy path to just introduce a whole bunch of celebrity into this and try and, wow people in through that factor. But, nice to hear that review, because we tried very hard to make it authentic and not just like a glitzy doc. It's really about someone's life. And sure, like Robert Rodriguez and Cheech Moran have their parts in it because they're huge in Danny's life. But I'm proud of that. It's hard not to just succumb to what you think should be on paper and what it should look like. And we keep doing these almost like, we call them niche documentaries, that we just, boil down what is the story. Let's keep focused on that. Let's not try and necessarily make it for everyone, but just those who really love Danny, and let that word of mouth waterfall over so that it starts to, come into popular zeitgeist of conversation. And it actually seems to be happening with this one. Right. A lot of people know Danny. They might not even know his name, but they know him. He's been in over 350 films. So hopefully word of mouth is really catching on now.
And I think we're going to see more of that. For those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. Already having a great conversation today with Jhod Cardinal. You just heard from him, and Adam Scorgie. We're talking with him about the new film, INMATE #1, The Rise of Danny Trejo. We're going to let you guys know at the end of our segment how you guys can stay connected with the updates for the film, and we'll talk about the role that social media is playing in that. Jhod, I want to go back to you, then Adam, do a follow-up with you on this. You talk about with this particular documentary what you all wanted to do, Jhod. You are known, of course, for your work on documentaries. What is it that made you want to choose that when it came to storytelling? What was it about these true stories that made you say, these are things that I want to bring a spotlight to?
Yeah, kind of two parts. One a bit negative in the industry and one a bit positive. The positive, I've always been a National Geographic junkie. So, from a young age, I always had subscriptions and just love the true side of story. The other side I've been working in this industry for a long time, and it felt like we reached a point where everyone just asked who the cast was in a film. And that became, not so fun just to kind of seek out what most famous person you can get. So those two mixed together, plus digital technology, so I could now reach. I love being a first adopter of tech stuff, and I just, migrated to those platforms. And I specialize in distribution. That's how Adam and I, the teamwork works. He does the production, I do the distribution. And it finally gave me the ability to reach people that I could never have previous. So I'm able to target smaller audiences, but, still make it work so that we can continue to pump out more incredible real-life stories.
Yeah. And Adam, what about for yourself? What was it that led you to wanting to tell stories through documentaries?
Very similar to Jhod's. The one thing I think that, when I was growing up, I confessed to being like an Arnold Stallone and like Van Damme fan. And I used to say, like, anything they're in, just, Dad, get it for me from the movie store, and I would love it. But there is no actor now that I will just go see anything they're in. Like, if the subject matter or the story is not what I want, like, it's changed now, as Jhod said, where films now are booked on, like, it could be the most amazing script ever and it wins all kinds of awards, but if it doesn't have the right talent, it doesn't get money. It doesn't matter how good it is. So you're seeing that where you tune into a lot of films and you're like, oh, it's got so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. This must be good. And then you're 10 minutes in, you're like, holy cow, how did they get all these actors involved? This is horrible, right? So, factual content really started to connect with people. And, I'd done my first doc way back in 2007, it released, and you really saw, like, in an audience, I knew the moment I was hooked. And because at that time, I think Jhod was too, we're both working 2 to 3 jobs and doing film jobs on the side to try to make it a full-time career. And we're in a sold-out theater at the Vancouver Film Festival, and I could see people laughing, and I could see people in tears, and I could see that the movie genuinely affected them after they left. And I remember going, I am never going to be able to earn a living doing anything else after seeing the way that the film impacted people. A fictional film doesn't typically have that impact, whereas a doc, you come away from it. Like, I know people that have watched Danny's doc, including even just our crew, and you want to be a better person because you're like, man, I thought I was a good person, but then I see what Danny does at 76 years old, and it's insane how much he's always giving back and always trying to help other people, that you want to live a better life. And docs have that effect where if you're thinking about it a week later, that film had an effect on you, and the doc did its job. Because whether you agree with the subject or not, if it had an effect on you, that's what a great film should do.
For sure. Jhod, I don't want to give any spoilers or anything for those, of course, who are just now hearing about INMATE #1. We definitely are looking forward to being able to see it. But I want to ask you about surprises. I'm always curious when I'm talking to either producers or filmmakers because I think, just like with storytelling in a book, you may go in with an idea of what you want to cover, what you want, the reader or the audience to get away from it, and then something happens and it changes your mind. Was there a surprise for you that you could share with us that maybe even you weren't expecting when it came to Danny's story?
To me, it was as the filming was progressing and just trying to capture him, even if we were driving in a vehicle with him or he was walking down the street, it was the amount of people that he conversed with all the time. We'd be filming, asking him questions. He has these really great, beautiful old cars. He's very proud of his car collection. And as we're filming, he's literally shouting to people as he knows, because like in the neighborhood he grew up in, and he's just so connected to where he's from. And, you know, a lot of time there's that gap between the celebrity and the average person, and he's full on. And people felt really welcome to come up to him. So that was nice to see, because you don't know exactly until you start filming what this person's like, but instantly seeing him so integrated in his community where he grew up is still there. But it's very cool. And it was, you know, we were able to sometimes very subtly put it in the film, and other times you're going to see massive murals about Danny. So that was just nice to really see what an average guy he was. And there are some other things, but yeah, I definitely don't want to spoiler those.
Right, exactly. And Adam, what about for yourself? I mean, is this the story that you intended, or were there some surprises for you as well?
There's always surprises in docs. I think that's what makes them so exciting, is that you put together a treatment and a pitch book of the overall arc and the things you're going to tackle, but then you find out, you know, so many things. And I'll give one little spoiler, but you know, Danny learned to have that face that he's now iconic for, that intimidating, mean face from his uncle Gilbert, who was a known gangster in Pacoima. And he got that face because his uncle would train him on how to do armed robberies perfect, because that was the most admirable, like, criminal act you could do when Danny was younger. And a great armed robbery was nobody got hurt, is that you were so intimidating that they just threw the money at you and you could get out of there really quick. So that's why Danny was so good as the bad guys in the movie, because he'd practice at like 12, 13 years old in front of the mirror with a sawed-off shotgun, be like, give me your money, right? So then he, like, when he would get to movies, they'd be like, wow, like, where did you study? And he'd be like, Hales Market, Vaughn's, the liquor store, were all the places I robbed when I was younger. And they're like, wow, you're so authentic. So you found that as you go through Danny's story, he almost seems like a living mythical being, because he's been through so much. Like, it would take, we were joking about this yesterday, that, like, it would take me, I think, 100 lifetimes to accomplish what Danny's done in one, right? When you see that he survived prison and he's been a world-renowned, you know, drug counselor, and now he's arguably the most successful Mexican-American actor of Hollywood history, and now he's a very successful restaurateur. Like, I don't know how many lives it would take me to accomplish half of that.
Wow. Well, it's a lot for us to be able to look forward to, and we're glad that the two of you could be able to come on and talk to us about it. Again, everyone, Jhod Cardinal and Adam Scorgie, they're the producers behind the new documentary, INMATE #1, The Rise of Danny Trejo. And, Jhod, I asked you earlier about letting our audience know about where they could stay connected. You mentioned you're going to give out the Facebook, so I'd have to ask you guys that before we wrap up. How has social media helped you guys in all of this? We talked about the early response. We talked about the word of mouth. But how has social media kind of helped you to propel this story as well?
Take it away, Adam.
Social media is really what Jhod and I built our career on. Like, we've been able to connect not just Danny's doc, but all of our docs to niche audiences that normally would get overlooked by distributors. You know, not to go too off path, but we had a previous film called Ice Guardians, all about hockey enforcers and the fighters in hockey. And we knew we had a great film, but it was overlooked by distributors because hockey's not the biggest sport in the U.S. So we did it ourselves, and we were able to connect with all these audiences and do really, really well with the film. So now when you have Danny's and you have a machine like Universal behind it, and you have Danny promoting it, you know, we're able to go like, holy, like, we're getting the numbers after 5 days. It did almost 4 million views, where even the studio was like, man, that's like what a feature film we're hoping gets these days. So social media is so key to connecting to your audiences now, especially for doc filmmakers like us. Like, we just wouldn't be able to connect with them if it wasn't for social media. We've truly built our career on that. And you can follow the film at Trejo Doc on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. You can find it. If you Google INMATE #1, you'll find it. It's out there just about everywhere now.
All right, so make sure you guys are definitely looking it up. Again, Trejo Doc, again, where you guys can find it on Twitter and on Facebook. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Jhod, Adam, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to having the both of you back on the program again.
Oh, thanks. My pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, we're glad to do it. Definitely want to thank our good friends at October Coast for setting up this chat with us for today, and thank all of you for tuning in, both for our radio audience and online, to another episode of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's make today amazing. Take care.